everybody, I'm Sheila. Today we are painting the this pretty sea turtle here. It's kind of hard to see, but I have a stenciled canvas, and if you're following me on my YouTube channel, these are pre-made kits that people purchase, and then I draw them out, and all the paint is already portioned out and given to them, so they're all kind of ready to go. So that's what I'm going to be teaching how to paint today. So we're going to start with the blue background first, and we're going to be using the darker phthalo blue to start with, and you're going to use your big square brush, and you're going to need quite a bit of I like to kind of thin out the blue a little bit, and there's a little bit of black kind of mixed in with that blue down there. So we're going to tap just a little bit of black to get started with that. So I'm going to start with my square brush first. Kind of get it wet, like get those bristles kind of moved out. And I'm going to wet my brush. I'm going to use that dark blue and just a little bit of my black. And you're going to use your you're going to pull out your paint from the ramekins I gave you onto your palette like this. And just use, a little bit at a time, so that way, your paint doesn't get super dirty as you're going. I'm going to start just right here below his body. And you have this nice flat blade of your brush, so I'm going to use that to kind of just outline around the bottom of the turtle. And I'm going to wet my brush and go in for some more paint. You want to make sure that your paint's gliding really, really nicely across the canvas. So I'm always kind of wetting my brush and then thinning out my paint a little bit to make sure that you see I'm getting really nice, smooth brush strokes. So that's what you want to achieve. If you're not getting those smooth brush strokes, then you might want to add a little bit more paint. Go ahead and paint around that edge as you're going along too. And then as you start kind of moving up around the turtle, you can start mixing in some of this lighter blue. And this lighter blue is a little bit more of a fluid acrylic paint, so it glides a little bit nicer. You can always add a little bit of white to it to lighten it up as well. I'm just kind of painting around the edge. I like to outline it a little bit first, and then I can kind of play off that edge. This is kind of a pretty loose strokes going in here. very loose painting. There's a lot of texture, and there's a lot of layers. So when we start working with Into the Turtle, we're going to be mixing a lot of layers to get like that really cool look. It looks really complicated, but it's actually pretty easy. There's a lot of white up top here, so I'm going to mix a lot of, basically just go in with my white. And I didn't really clean my brush, so I'm just kind of the blue that was on my paintbrush already. Or you could get your brush clean and start fresh. Whatever, doesn't matter. I might go ahead and just do that too. Okay, so I kind of cleaned my brush off, still using my big square brush. And I'm just gonna go in, and I kind of went in like around where there was a little bit of some dirty white. You can see that I'm only mixing like around the edges of my paint because I don't want to mix up all my clean white. I want to keep that white nice and clean. I'm always kind of looking at my painting. Oops, I accidentally got some yellow in there. No big deal. Clean my brush off, and I don't know, I'll just leave it. It's okay. It's just a pretty, it'll kind of be kind of pretty teal. Maybe like some sun kind of flowing in there. I'm always kind of referencing my example picture to maybe add in some little highlights here and there. You can see I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between like dark blues and light blues, and then just kind of filling it in. Being careful around the eye there, and then just kind of I'm pushing really lightly here just to kind of a lot of texture going on in this, and just by lightly just kind of tapping my brush around, it's kind of blending in these little areas here. And then just make sure the sides are painted. So you can see I'm painting my edges as we go. Okay. So I got my brush really clean, and now I'm just going to kind of go in with a dry brush and just kind of soften out some of these areas. And then go in with some clean white and just add some clean white and push very lightly. And I'm almost creating some movement in the water. All these really wild brush strokes really make it look like the water is kind of rushing around the turtle's fins. And I tend to paint kind of fast, so if you're having a hard time keeping up with me, then just pause the video and restart it when you're ready. So there's a little bit of a glare. You can kind of see. And next we're going to start down here on the rock. Maybe if I can adjust this a little bit to maybe not be so much of a glare. A little better. Okay, so the next we're going to paint this bottom rock area. There's a lot of pink in it, so we're going to use our pink and our white, and then we'll go in with a little bit of light blue. And this light blue is mostly going to be white with just a little bit of blue. Still using our square brush. Okay. So I'm going to take a lot of white and then just a little bit of this pretty pink color. Still a little bit of blue on my brush, but that's okay because there's going to be blue in this rock anyways. These little lines here, they can kind of guide your brush strokes. We're going to be adding some like light blue sketchy lines over top of it. And you can see like I've got like some dirty white over here, and if that mix, you can see there's even a little bit of blue on my brush. And it's working to my advantage with the rock by just adding some of those pretty blue tones in there. Sure you wrap around the edge. There's a lot of white up top here, so I'm just going to kind of go in with just some white. And it's blending a little bit with my background. It's a very rainy day here, so my background's not quite dry yet. And that's okay because there's going to be light blue there anyway, so I'm just going to go with it. Now it's just kind of blending out into this purplyish color over here. And sometimes, you know, when you're painting, I just kind of go with what's happening with the paint. I don't, you know, if it's not what, you know, it's not black or white, like what it's supposed to be doing. It's, if it's working and it looks cool, then just go with it. Otherwise, if you make a mistake, it'll dry and you can go back and fix it. Once it's dry, you can just paint over it. Now I'm kind of going in with some white and adding some texture into it, just real light loose lines in here. I'm gonna get my brush really clean. And then I'm gonna go in with just some darker pink and kind of just tap in this darker pink. Pretty much using the blade of my brush to do all of this. So you see I'm kind of have it turned sideways. Okay, I think that's good. Pretty much just moving it back and forth, kind of like on a brush stroke, kind of like in this motion. Okay, so we can add a little bit of purple to this pink with our little brush. So I'm just going to pull a little purple over here, a little bit of pink over here, a little bit of red. That's going to make kind of like a magenta color. You can kind of mix it to the color that you want. And this is kind of just going to be like a little bit of a deep darker. And I'm just going to lightly just kind of tap this in. You might need your paint to dry a little bit more to get it the way you want, but this just gives it a little bit of like a deeper color. And we'll be using that in the breastplate here, around here and stuff as well. Okay. Now, so I'm thinning out some dark blue. You see how I'm kind of rolling my paintbrush in it. Have a little bit of water into it to a nice perfect point. So this is your smallest brush. And I usually, when I'm doing details, you can hold it real close to get right up on your canvas. I'm gonna hold it a little bit on the back end. And I'm just gonna lightly run some of these lines in here. The wetter your paint, you see how I'm always going back and rolling it in, the better you're going to get these kind of squiggly lines. My paint's pretty wet today. It's not drying as fast as I'd like it to. It's pretty humid. But just kind of just like accenting down here. You can look at your picture to kind of see where you want to put your little blue lines. I might come back in when this is a little bit drier and it's not blending as much in with the pink. All right, so it's time to start the turtle. I think I'm going to start with his big fin first. Okay. So we're going to do yellow through here. This is like a brighter yellow. And then inside here, it's going to be some yellow ochre. And you mix some of that pink in with the yellow ochre, and it's going to give you a little bit of a darker brown. You can see those contours a little bit better. So we're going to start kind of up here with the brighter yellow, and then we'll come in and do the deeper like tanner yellow in here. The square brush is my go-to brush. I use it for almost the whole painting. So I'm going to mix like a little bit of yellow with some white. Yellow and white always work better together because it keeps it from being less transparent. You'll see there's like you're going to be able to see these pencil marks through this yellow paint, which is a good thing because then you'll be able to see where to put the highlights. And then so it just kind of follows down. Kind of this whole shoulder base color is pretty much just yellow. And I'm going to paint this whole right side with the tan mixed with some yellow and some, oops. So you can still see like my pencil lines in there. Okay, so I'm gonna bring a little bit of the yellow and a little bit of tan together, and just a little bit of white. And I'm going to paint the rest of it this color. And while it's still wet, we're going to be adding that pink up here to shade it. Okay, so I'm going to take some of that pink color, that magenta pink color that we just made. And I'm going to just paint it right into that fin. bumping the easel. And so there's a little contour right here that I'm filling in. And there's like some little circles in here. Those are kind of going to be where we go in and add some of his spots. You can also shade where some of these pencil lines are. And it's a real light touch. And I lightly just kind of will fade it into the paint. And you're still going to be able to see some of your pencil lines in there. And I'll show you how to get rid of them shortly. You add a little bit of purple into it, it'll also make it kind of dark. It's very dark on this left edge right here. And where those lines are, I'm kind of going in and accenting. There's a little bit of some purple right here. So right now I kind of have some purple and yellow on my brush. And purple and yellow make brown, so this is kind of, I'm using these two complementary colors to create some shading, really subtle shading. And then I'm just going to lightly just kind of soften it out there a little bit. I'm also kind of using my purple to, my background went into this a little bit, so I can kind of cover that up a little bit. All right. Maybe add a little more pink in here. It's not pink enough. Just right there at the tip. Just throw a little pink in there, randomly. A few other little spots. You can see how loose I'm painting. I'm just kind of, it's just like a real light dab, and then I'll just kind of lightly just kind of brush it away, just kind of soften it in to the other colors. Back here, this is all a very pale, kind of coming up underneath. For you. You guys have like this contour, these little squiggly marks over here in the belly are the like where the darker little blue lines go, but it's mostly going to be like a really pale pink, so it's going to be mostly white with just a little bit of pink. Just like you can see how little pink I have on there. Just a very light tint. You can always go darker, but it's harder to go lighter. And I'm going to fill it in underneath of this kind of round shape here. And then the yellow kind of will fade in around here. So you can kind of I went back in and I just grabbed a little bit of my yellow and I just kind of lightly just kind of pulled it into this, just a little bit. Let's see. Now I'm going to go back in with a little bit more pink. And I'm just going to kind of lightly just shade it into here. There's just a little bit. Most of the shading is going to be done with blue. And I made some more magenta color, which is the red, pink, and purple. And that's going to go right around that breastplate. It's kind of like a lighter color here. And I'm kind of covering up some of those like contours, but I'll paint them back. And then you can kind of just fluff it out over there. Go back in with a little bit more white here, just to round that out. I'm just going to go back in with some just plain old pink, and just to brighten up that pink, because it got a little bit gray with the purple in there. You see, I'm kind of just like, they're like dabbing strokes. So he's starting to come together. This is still, you know, pretty light. I'll kind of do a close-up for you so you can see it a little bit better. Grab a quick chunk of butter. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry before I continue to work on it. We can go ahead and maybe paint the yellow in. It's going to be his bottom jaw and around the top of his head. I'm going to leave out his beak and this big spot here. Or kind of just leave out any of the spots. I'm just going to paint it just yellow with a little bit of white. You can switch to a smaller brush for this, or you can continue to use the square brush. I'm going to continue to use the square brush. I like this brush a lot. But if it's too big for you and you can't get around things, then switch to a smaller one. Okay. So you see I'm always kind of I'm always painting with the blade. Add a little bit more white into that. And you can let it kind of, see I'm kind of, see that? I'll do a little better close up of that. But I can kind of get in between these square shapes pretty easily just by using the blade. And there's a tiny, 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 tiny bit of pink in this. Makes it kind of like a corally color. You could even shade it with a little bit of, maybe a little bit of some lighter brown. I don't really need to go around the eye. There's a lot going on around the eye, so we'll just kind of, and it's okay if you paint a little bit in these spots because they're like darker blues and greens, so your paint's going to go right over them. And this beak actually is yellow, so let's just paint this beak. And maybe add a little bit of white. And over here, we'll just throw in some yellow there. So I'm going to bring this up really close. So you can kind of do like little dots. And that's going to kind of create, and the pink that I just did it right there is pulling up from you know, this is still kind of wet. But you see how that kind of starts giving it some depth by kind of doing like the yellow, you know, you have your yellow head and then your pink over here, but then you can do some yellow dots. Maybe not necessarily dots, but just little dashes. So yeah. Cool. Closer. So I'm going to take my little brush now. And there's a lot of blue around here. So I'm going to get my dark blue really thinned out again. And roll it out. I'm going to choke up on it here. And just kind of lightly, I'm going to shade some blue. I haven't painted this contour yet. Right here. So this little spot right here is going to be dark blue. And this looks like it's going to be greenish. That's kind of like, oh, it's going to stay a whitish color. But we can paint a different color. What color should we paint it? At least paint it white. But there's some colors in my white, so it's not just a plain old white. Get that thing up again. Get back in with some dark blue. I'm going to take my dark blue on the left side of his fin, where there's some contouring there. There's a little spot here. There's a little line there. Remember, this has to be very, very thin paint to get these little lines. There's some little accenting the blues in here. And then coming around here in the breastplate, there's a little blue. And then the little dashes as well. Kind of like the neckline dashes. And really kind of keep studying your picture and just, you know, if you need to like just pause it and just hold your picture right up to, you know, to see where these little blue lines are going in. And your picture is going to look different than my picture because we all have a little bit of a different style of painting. So don't force it. Kind of just, a lot of times when you just like let something go in its own direction, even if it's a little different, it's still cool. It doesn't mean it's wrong. And there's a few little blue, maybe one or two little dashes up there. Okay, so go on. Use just a little bit of a bigger round brush. My brush is a little new, so it's kind of needs to get wet. Okay. So these little, I'm gonna start maybe painting. Let's just paint these little things light green, and then this one's like a darker blue, and then maybe some like, those are like darker blue. But to make the light green, you're going to take the green and the yellow and mix it together. Add a little bit of white, so it's green, yellow, and white right here. And these are going to be layered, so they're not just going to stay just green. I'm going to layer it up a little bit. And this one. I switched back to this brush because I like it better. I'm going to paint the green back here too. The eyes are going to be, looks like this is like going to be purple, and then the middle of this eye is going to be black, and then we're going to shade some like blue around it. But let's let that green dry first. We're going to work from light to dark on the shell with our square brush. So make some of that lime green color again. Yellow, green, and white. And we're going to paint the insides of these shells first yellow, this yellow, green, and white. And then let's see. And then the outside of it, we'll just kind of maybe tap with a little bit of green around the outside. I'm gonna flick it up in there to kind of just like blending it around. And then I'm going to take my dark blue and I'm just going to kind of run it down through the middle of each one of those, and then around the bottom. Okay. There's 2 more sets of shells. So this is going to be like this bottom one's going to be like a really light yellow, and then the middle one is also yellow. So yellow, tan, some white, just to add a little extra to it. I like this square brush because it really gets into these square spaces. Really nicely. And yes, there's some green mixing in here, and that's okay. There's so much color in here, if anything is really going to work. And then we're going to fill it in with some dark blue. So I have some thinned out blue, and I'm just going to use the blade again to do this. Get a much straighter line. You can use your little brush though if you want to. And I'm just going to outline the bottom. Nice. Okay, so all we got left to do is shade some in the head, do it, and then do those little fins, and add some highlights in the fin, and we're done. So let's add some highlights into the shell first. So just get a little bit of white on your brush. And I'm just going to kind of accent in there. Then I'm going to take some tan and white, and I'm going to accent with very thick paint. And there's already some contours in there to make it easy for you. You want to be able to see some of this white streaky stuff. So you can see I'm kind of using some pretty thick paint to kind of dab in there to create some texture. And I'm kind of following the contours that are already in there. Just kind of smooth out those highlights just a little bit. Okay, so let's do this fin now. So this fin is going to be like a light blue on the left side, and it's going to be yellow with a little bit of the pink and tan color mix to shade it through the middle. I'm going to actually use my lighter blue that I have with some white. I'm going to make sure it's a little bit darker than the water. So maybe I will make mine a little darker so it doesn't blend in with my water. Go around those spots a little bit. And I'm going to stop there. And now I'm going to paint the rest in that yellow and white. The other side. Let the two colors meet. Cool through quite a little bit. And then I'm going to kind of just tap some pink in through the middle. And I'm going to line it with a darker blue here because I need to separate my head from this fin. There we go. Okay. So this is going to be a really pale green with your little brush, and then we'll do the spots with a dark blue. I'm just going to go in between here with my pale green, my little and let's take the blue and there's the left fin. The right fin has yellow and white little spots. I want to soften. But while I have blue with my little brush, I'm going to accent some of these. And you can kind of go back in with just some thick yellow. You can even clean my brush just to kind of blend it in a little bit. Soften the nose. I like that. That's good. And then just add a little bit of some white. And kind of just layer it up with the three colors. Now I'm going to paint his eyeball black. And there's a really light blue kind of plate over top of that. And just going to use right below it. You can shade it with some darker blue. And then you'll highlight the eye with a white streak. Okay, and now we're going to add the yellow and white spots. So I'm using thick paint. It's a little too thick. And I'm just going to kind of over top of it. This little mouth needs to be a little bit more defined. And now we can start doing some of the fish. So the fish are going to be pink and white. Now I'll kind of do the bigger fish first. And some you can kind of do like a little dash like that. And some of the fish just are little, they don't even have tails, they're just little dashes. Just kind of filling in space. Okay, and then the last step, just some little bubbles. And that's the sea turtle. Thank you guys for joining in tonight. If you have any questions, just email me or send me a message, and I'd be happy to kind of give you any critiques on anything that you are having trouble with or anything with like the techniques. Just let me know. And yeah, thank you guys.